Welcome to the Susan Sly Project, where entrepreneurs rule, startups launch, and the side hustle becomes the main hustle. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Susan Sly.
What's up, side hustlers? I hope you're having an amazing, incredible day. And you know what? Business is tough, but you know what's tougher is trying to navigate your kids, a job, your side hustle, or multiple side hustles. My guest today, he knows how to navigate all of that. Why? Because he is a father. He has an amazing ad agency, marketing agency called Inbound Marketing. He has an incredible LinkedIn live show. He's worked with people like Ty Lopez, Jeffrey Gitomer. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And not only is he someone who has served people from Gen Z all the way up to baby boomers who are trying to get their marketing going. He's also a personal mentor to me. Every time I hear from him, I learn so much. So the incredible Joe Soto is here. Joe, I want to jump right in. You are crushing it on LinkedIn. What is up with LinkedIn? So many people think it's just like that stodgy place for B2B. What's up on LinkedIn? Why is it so exciting for you right now?
First of all, thanks for inviting me in. You are always an inspiration to me. So it's exciting to be here and help out in any way I can. LinkedIn, in 2011, I wrote a chapter called The 15 Imperatives of LinkedIn. And I wrote that chapter in a book called Social Boom that Jeffrey Gitomer put out there into the world. And he had people like Lewis Howes and Sally Hogshead and other people can contribute to that book as well. Talk about early. It really hasn't changed many of these things that work, except for a few of the more interesting things now available on LinkedIn, like LinkedIn Live. Most people don't know they can go live on LinkedIn like they do on Instagram or Facebook if you apply to go live. So you have to, if you go to Google and you type in LinkedIn Live application, that'll take you to the online application. You fill it out. I want you to do the same thing, Susan. Fill it out. And then you might hear one of the 7 kids who live in the home. There's 2 that are out of the home now. One of the 7 in the background. But if you go to the application and fill it out, now it's within usually a couple of weeks, you'll find out and you'll usually get accepted. I mean, essentially what they're looking for is what kind of content will you put out and educate into the world? And so one of the ways to use LinkedIn is to showcase your competencies and share your knowledge and educate people with maybe a little bit of entertainment behind it. Some people call it edutainment. And that's a platform to do it. So I love LinkedIn because it's more than a platform to put your resume and to try and get a job. It's a place where you can go on there and share your expertise, build your authority, and have a genuine impact on people who might chime in on your LinkedIn Lives. If you don't have LinkedIn Live yet, then I would say post video and get video up there, and LinkedIn will see that you're doing video. And so that's one way we use it.
So Joe, let me ask this question from a technical standpoint. When you're doing LinkedIn Lives, are you going in off your desktop? Are you going in off your phone? Like, give us sort of the behind the scenes, because yours looks so incredible. I've watched several of them.
So I'm using a tool called StreamYard. So it's StreamYard.com, just like it sounds. And StreamYard, there's a free version, and then there's like a $10 or $20 version that allows you to broadcast on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn all simultaneously live. So you have to use a third-party application to broadcast on LinkedIn Live. So they won't let you actually do it from the platform itself yet. They're kind of behind Facebook with technology, but the audience on LinkedIn, tends to resonate more than maybe your audience on Facebook. It just really depends on what you're selling, what you're offering, what your side hustle is. But at the end of the day, I always say if your audience is on any one of those platforms, and most likely they're on all of them, why not show up there? And the way to do it easily without having to go on all the platforms individually is I just do it right from StreamYard, broadcast to them all. And I even broadcast into some of my Facebook groups as well at the same time. In fact, today, our show, we were on 7 platforms at the same time.
Wow. Okay. I'm doing that as soon as we're done this show.
Then, by the way, on StreamYard, when you're done with your, which would be just like this, like what we're doing right now, where when you're done with your video, you can download the video and download just the audio version. And then I just give that to my virtual assistant team. They do a little editing and they upload it to what's called Bcast, which there's a lot of different, if you type in podcast hosting, you'll find there's a lot of podcast hosting solutions. Bcast is inexpensive, but it'll they post it to Bcast. They upload the audio for me, or I could do it myself, but I hire this VA group to do it for me. But then all of a sudden it's on Spotify and Apple iTunes and everywhere else all at the same time. So I turn it into a podcast from my Facebook and my LinkedIn lives.
That is a beautiful thing. I'm such a believer in redeploying content, and we're currently running a mastermind, and I took people behind the scenes, like all the tech we use, how we go on onlinejobs.ph. That's where we get VAs.
Yep.
I have a massive VA team that does a whole bunch of redeployment, but now I'm going to use StreamYard. Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's talk about consistency. One of the questions that comes up all the time, especially from Gen Xers and boomers, who have side hustles, they're like, what am I going to say, Joe? What am I going to say? What am I going to talk about? How do I go live? What are some tips you can give, to people who are really nervous about it?
So I would say don't task yourself with that. There's a couple of things to do. So one is, in my case, I can love conversations like this. And so don't force yourself to always come up with the content and the topics and the ideas. There's plenty of people that will hop on a StreamYard with you. And what you do is you just give the guest a shared link in StreamYard. The interface is really elementary and basic. In fact, somebody who's a technophobe will love StreamYard because there's not very many buttons. And one of them is invite guests, and it pops up a link you give to them, and then they come on with you, and then just pick a topic that you'll have a discussion around. And then it's like any type of conversation. Once you kind of get going, it becomes very natural for you to have a discussion around a certain topic. So if the topic was, Joe, how do we get leads on LinkedIn? We talk about what different ways we might get leads on LinkedIn. So people make it harder than it actually is. And also, if somebody's in a side hustle, what you do is I'd sit down and I'd say, okay, whatever your side business is, let's say it's selling nutritional supplements through e-commerce online or whatever, or drop shipping or any type of e-commerce. You say, okay, what do I know about e-commerce or about my particular category, which might be nutrition and health, that I could educate my audience on that they don't know? And most likely it's way more than you think. There's an old saying I love, which is, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So you just knowing one or two things more than the next person who might be watching you on that live makes you an authority or puts you in that expert status. So I learned this in my agency business, where I'd meet with business owners and go, they may know a lot about their business and about their category of business, but they don't know anything about this little social media hack. Or in your case, like StreamYard, like what? I can go across all these channels and use a simple tool like StreamYard. That makes it valuable. So don't think there's not something that that your audience would love to learn about or hear about.
I think that's so perfect. And really, whatever your business is, there's no end of topics. And my little tip for everyone is to go to answerthepublic.com. And so answerthepublic.com, it's free. There's a freemium, there's a paid, and then put in your topic. It's going to give you dozens of questions people ask about your topic, and there's a whole list of shows. When I was doing my weekly Bulletproof Monday Facebook Live show, that's where I got topics all the time. And I would even type in my name and what do people ask about me, and I'd make a topic out of that. So, which is fantastic. Joe,
I'll give one more resource. BuzzFeed is also really good for that, because it gives you a lot of topics that are hot and trending. And what you can literally do is be the curator of some of that content. So you could take some different pieces from your category, let's say it was health, from BuzzFeed, and then just talk about that and reference the article you read it from. You're kind of like delivering the news and delivering the content through your Facebook or LinkedIn or your video.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I didn't even know about BuzzFeed. I mean, now I have so much homework to do after the show. And if you're watching on YouTube, just go ahead and like this and comment, because I personally go in and take a look at all of your comments. It's me responding. It's not a VA, but I'd love for you to like it. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, definitely do it. If you're on Spotify or iTunes, wherever you are, come over to YouTube. There's a ton of great content just like this. Okay, Joe, final question.
Yes.
Let's say someone is like, I'm just learning Instagram and I now have a little TikTok. Why should I pay attention to LinkedIn on top of everything I'm already doing? If you could give a prediction for the platform, you and I are both mentored by Harvey McKay. He's always telling us to predict. Why LinkedIn? Why should someone carve out some time daily to spend on LinkedIn, let's say now and over the next 6 to 12 months?
So LinkedIn is a networking platform, and now more than ever, we're restricted to the virtual world of networking. We can't go to cocktail parties or events like we once were able to, and at least in many states still that are completely closed. And so LinkedIn gives you that networking playground. And Harvey shares that, he can really credit successful people to the value that they place on their relationships. And he's one of the most connected people that we both know, because he puts so much value into his relationships and fostering and nurturing that network, right? So LinkedIn gives you, I think, the best opportunity in business to build out that network. And I'll give you an example of how this worked. So I recently read a book called Primal Branding. And Primal Branding, I think, is one of the best books I've ever read on branding. And it's required reading at YouTube, FYI, side note.
Oh, wow.
It's so good. It's the 7 root causes of what makes a brand go. If you haven't read that book, Susan, you will thank me in a Thanksgiving card with how much you like that book. So I was on LinkedIn and I reached out to LinkedIn. And by the way, this is how you connect on LinkedIn. This is the Joe Soto philosophy for connecting on LinkedIn. What most people do, I'll tell you what most people do wrong. They go on LinkedIn, they connect, and then they start pitching. They start going, here's what I offer, here's what I'm doing on the side. And if you're interested in this service, let me know. I'll be there for you. They start pitching. Instead, do what I do and what I teach now, which is, I read that book, and this is an example, but it could be anybody you want to meet. But for me, I just wanted to connect with Patrick Hanlon. So I went on LinkedIn, I found Patrick Hanlon, I did a search, and I just wrote him a note and said, we're not connected. I said, I'd like to connect here. I recently read your book, love your book. And if there's anyone in my network of contacts that you would like an introduction to, please let me know. I'm happy to do it. And that's it. And then my name. Now, most people don't do that. And that's what it's about. LinkedIn is about, you have a network of contacts. Now, if you're going, well, I don't have a lot of contacts on LinkedIn. Well, start connecting to some people, and you will have. And ideally connect to a wide range of people, not just people who are your target audience or target clients, but maybe people who could refer you to your target audience, your target clients. Always think of your secondary audiences, and also just people you want to learn from or be inspired by. And start building those connections. Every single day, do this. As well as every single week, maybe give some endorsements and maybe a recommendation to people. People love that. But with Patrick, that's all I said. And Patrick responded back and said, thank you so much. What's your home address? I'll send you a new copy of the softbound book. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not what I was going for, but I gave it to him. And he wrote me a note inside the card and said, in the book, and said, if you can find a place to have me on your show, Joe, I'd really like that. And he's going to be a guest on next week's show.
Awesome.
Or 2 weeks. He's in 2 weeks. And that started, and then he said, we actually got on the phone. And I said, let's have a quick conversation about the show date. And he said, Joe, and then he brought it up. He says, there is somebody I would like a connection to. And this person was somebody I knew I could send an email and do an intro to. And I'll take it one step further. I used a program called Hippo Video, which is similar to Vidyard, but you could use Loom. Loom.com is free. Yep. But I use a program called Hippo Video. It's like $20 a month that allows me to send video email. And I did a video introduction between Patrick and this other person I was introducing him to, and said, Patrick, meet Evan, Evan, meet Patrick. You guys are going to love each other, and I'll let you guys take it from here, but you both should be on each other's radar. And Patrick or Evan, Patrick wanted to meet you and have an introduction. That's it. So I did the introduction via video, which also puts me in a differentiation light than most people with how they do introductions. Mm. And so if you're willing to go that little extra mile, video introductions, offer up your network, offer up, helping and serving first, giving first, and you use LinkedIn that way, it can come back tenfold. And I'll tell you one last thing about LinkedIn. In 2013, I did this. I reached out to a guy I hadn't seen in 10 years on LinkedIn. And I said, Bob, so good to see you here. I seen him 10 years prior in a consulting project. And he says, Joe, I'm now the CEO of the company you were consulting with. Would you come and talk with us? That project for me in 2014 to 15 was over $250,000 just because I reached out to him on LinkedIn and connected. True story. He's a good friend today. In fact, we co-own that restaurant, and I invested in a restaurant with his restaurant group in Lakeville, Minnesota in 2014. So amazing how the connections can snowball. And you know this more than anyone, how valuable are relationships.
Yeah. And I love that you shared that story, is just adding value. Like my LinkedIn inbox is like, do you want more leads? Do you want more, do you need digital marketing, or do you need a software engineer? And I'm like, no.
And how many people say, would you like a connection to someone who could be valuable to you in my network?
No, that no one ever does that. And that's I think, such a huge thing is when we're building our network is always think about how to add value. Before Joe and I were recording this show, we were talking about a mutual friend, and I found out that friend has a book launch. So I texted him. I'm like, hey, I'd love to have you on the show. I'd love to promote your book for you. Like, there's no ask. It's just, how can I serve you? And when you show up and serve, and you do need something, that person's going to take your call. They're going to respond to your text. They're going to respond. I love that. Joe, you gave so many tips: StreamYard, Primal Branding book, BuzzFeed, Hippo video. I've got notes. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
And everyone, check out Joe's show on LinkedIn. Oh my gosh, it's so good. He's an amazing interviewer. Follow him on LinkedIn. He's incredible. If this show has been helpful and you're on Apple or iTunes, we'd love a 5-star review. If you're on Spotify, we'd love a great review there. Share it across your social, tag Joe, tag myself. And if we aren't connecting, I do free coaching, free business coaching. You're coached by a multimillionaire for free, only for people on my list. So go to susansly.com, get on the list so you can get in the next live coaching. So anyway, Joe, thanks so much for being here.
Wow. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another epic episode of the Susan Sly Project. For more tips, strategies, and ideas, visit www.susansly.com.